Welcome to the next block of the stability and mobility unit, and as I always mention, that the stability and mobility coexist, which means there is stability and there is mobility and there's a mixture of both within everyone's body, and the sport requires you to have both. So it's really down to the athlete and you guys at home to decide how much of which one I want to do. So we give you, as always, 6 exercises, 3 stability, 3 mobility, and please at home select what you feel most. If you've got a very hypermobile person, you may need a bit more stability. If you tend to be a high tension guy and don't have our girl and have a lot of mobility, then you might need a bit of more mobility. But again, you would benefit from doing all these, of course. So the first one, we start with stability and mobility, is internal and external rotation. Quite a challenging one to do properly. And basically, what's going to happen is that you're going to stabilize on one leg, so it's one leg, and you're going to reach around as far as you possibly can. And what happens here is the femur on the left side is going through external rotation. And you're going to reach as far as you can, touching the toe, and then basically going to try and draw a circle like a compass all the way around, and you're going to rotate as around as far as you can and reach there. So you're trying to reach as far as you can around, controlling that momentum or controlling that motion. Yeah. So again, internal rotation of the hip. External rotation of the hip into internal rotation of the hip, and touch it round as far as you can, keeping that. You're trying to keep the body straight, so you get full rotation and full rotation. Just control the body as much as you can. It feels a little bit alien, some of this, but again, what we're always trying to do here is just teach the nervous system to be able to do sort of extreme movements that when you are challenging and unique moments, the body's been there before, and that's really important, that the nervous system recognizes movement. If it doesn't recognize movement, generally it's at the gods as whether you're going to get injured or not. So it's important to challenge your own movement in a functional capacity. And it's functional because you stood on one leg, and you will internally rotate the hip and you will externally rotate the hip. So yeah, go as far as you can on your right, as far as you can on your left, 6 each side on this one. Okay, so now we're going on to hip stability with overhead reaches. So the hip stability before we did on the bench, we're trying to keep the bench away now, so challenge you a little bit. So you're going to be kneeling. The hip just comes slightly up and then slides along the back, and then it hits off the floor. That's the motion here. So just go on. Sorry, you're on here, and you're just going to reach back with that knee as far back as you can, touch the floor. But yes, you're right. Hands are overhead as you do it. So the knee touches the floor, just the knee, and then come back. Yeah, into hip extension. That's good. Yeah, and all the way back. Reach as far back as you can. Touch knee at the floor, very, very good. That's very good. That's a good rep. And then you do the other side, just challenging the hip stability here. It's a very hard exercise to do, especially with hands overhead. Good. And relax. Again, you do 6 reps on your left, 6 reps on your right. Now we're going to a sort of a reverse lunge sequence with toe touch in front. I'm going to demonstrate what that looks like. So you're going to go on single leg, you're going to come up into one leg, then you're going to basically reach back into a sort of reverse lunge pattern. The toe touches the floor, the knee goes towards the floor, and the hands reach out in front, or actually hands reach to the floor. Yeah. So as you reach back, you're going to squat onto one leg almost, toe touches the floor, knee towards the floor, and then into that reverse lunge type action. Good, reach the floor, perfect. 6 reps on each side, just try the other side for a little bit. A lot going on here, got to stabilize on one leg, then you got to control the hip rotating back. One hip is extending, one hip is almost in flexion, so very, very important, exactly what we do when we're running. And the reaching to the floor then encourages more glute activation towards end range on the right side. Okay, good, there are your 3 stability exercises. Now we go into mobility. First one, anterior hip. So again, the hip flexion, we always talk about hip flexion, and some people, hip extension, sorry. A lot of people sit in a little bit of flexion, so we're trying to open up that hip as best we can. So you're going to need a bench or something of sorts. A chair is absolutely fine. Just find what works for you. Use the benches to create more hip extension on the right side. And you're going to, you can drop your knee to the floor. You can drop your knee right to the floor if you can't reach it. No, okay, and then come out of it. So the bench, and if the bench is too much, just do it away from the bench. Just do it away from the bench. So hit the floor, so just go down into that one, and then kick the hip forward. You go hands across your chest when you do it. So again, you're just trying to open up that right hip. There is what we're working on, the right hip extension. And then come out of it and then go into it again. So 6 repetitions. The bench there is just keeping the back leg up. Like you can pull the back leg up if you want and then get into the motion. But it's just locking in the hip and creating more hip extension is all that's doing. Do it with and without. Similar principle working here. Hip extension left and right. Yep, do one more rep. That's good. Okay, and you will need a bench for the next one. So the bench just locks in the foot a little bit. So it doesn't have to be a bench, it can be a chair, it can be anything home. So you put your left leg up here, you lock in the foot, keep the foot relatively straight and lock it in foot. You don't want to externally rotate, you want to internally rotate it. Leg is straight, the right leg is straight. First movement is rotation. So again, it's going to load up this hip, left medial hip. And then, yeah, and then squat down into it. Yep. And then up, kick the hip forward and then rotate again. Perfect. And 6 reps on your left and 6 reps on your right. Good work. Just one more rep. Good. Okay, and the last one, a little bit tricky just to get the angles right, but you're gonna, this is like a transverse rotational lunge. So create an L with your, imagine if I drew a line from my heel now, going back that way, and a line from my heel here going back that way. You'd see the way there's an L created. The meeting point would be my center mass. Create that nice L pattern, then load onto this side, and then once you're here, rotate into it. You're going to feel a lot of this in your internal hip and groin area. Yeah. Yeah, so create that L, squat down onto it, and then rotate. That's it. Yeah. So again, you can adjust your feet here, you can have a wider stance as long as you're feeling it where we should feel it in the medial aspect of your hip. Yep. Or actually on the other side then you'd have to swap legs. Yeah, so again create the L on this side, yeah, and then do it. So you just do one side. So sitting on whatever side you sit onto this one here, and then you rotate this side. That's it. Just do a couple of reps and rotate. Good. Good. That's good. That ends the stability and mobility. What I would say, sometimes the order can be important too. Like if you're really stiff and you feel like I need a lot of mobility work, my advice would be start with the mobility stuff, create the range in the body, and then teach it to be stable. It's all good having lots of excessive range. If it doesn't stabilize and if it doesn't control much motion, then it can actually be quite damaging to you. So make sure you do stretch, but then you stabilize it as well. You teach it how to be stable. Teach it. When I say it, I'm talking about the whole system. That's the end of that phase or that block. So I hope you enjoy it. Hope you see the relevance. With stability and mobility, it's a never-ending entity, and there's been a host of an array of exercises that we've posted here. So pick any one from any week. There's no, this is the only development phase or whatever. There's just different layers and different exercises that we write for you. So if there's one exercise from week 1, keep using that one if you feel a benefit from it. There's no like with the strength and stability and mobility, with the strength, power, and the speed, agility. There is kind of different things to do at different times. With this one, it's a continuation throughout. So just make sure you know that. Okay. Stay safe, keep doing the exercises, stay consistent, and I hope you're enjoying it.